Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, the mining vessel, Helios, drifted silently through the void. Dr. Naomi Harrison stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the strange readings flickering across her holographic display. After 15 years of space archaeology, she had never seen anything quite like this. "Dr. Harrison," the ship's AI chimed in, "the anomaly's energy signature is intensifying." Naomi brushed a strand of graying hair from her face, studying the pulsating graph. "Record everything, Prometheus. This is definitely not natural formation." The asteroid before them was unremarkable at first glance, just another chunk of space rock among millions. But beneath its cratered surface, something was calling out. Something that defied every known law of physics. "Captain Rodriguez," Naomi spoke into her comm, "I need approval for a closer inspection." There was a moment of static before the captain's weathered voice replied, "The company won't like us deviating from the mining schedule, Doctor. With all due respect, Captain, this could be the discovery of the century. The energy readings, they're unlike anything in our database." A heavy sigh crackled through the comm, "You have 2 hours. Take Jensen with you." Minutes later, Naomi found herself in an excavation pod with Daniel Jensen, the ship's head of security. His massive frame barely fit in the co-pilot's seat, and his perpetual scowl deepened as they approached the asteroid. "I don't like this, Doc," Jensen muttered, checking his weapon for the 3rd time. "Mining ops are dangerous enough without chasing ghost stories." "This is no ghost story," Naomi replied, guiding the pod toward a particularly dark crater. "Look at these readings. Whatever's in there, it's been waiting for a long time." The pod's lights illuminated the crater's interior, revealing smooth, geometric patterns carved into the rock, definitely not natural formation. As they descended deeper, the patterns began to pulse with a faint blue light. "That's impossible," Jensen whispered. "This rock's been dead for millions of years." Their pod landed near a particularly intricate pattern. Naomi activated her suit's enhanced scanning mode, and the readings nearly overloaded her system. "It's some kind of door," she breathed. "And it's still active." The next hour was a blur of careful excavation and increasingly bizarre readings. When they finally breached the inner chamber, both Naomi and Jensen fell silent in awe. Floating in the center of a perfectly spherical room was what appeared to be a suit of armor, if armor could be made of liquid starlight. It hung suspended in mid-air, its surface rippling like mercury in zero gravity. The design was both organic and geometric, unlike anything human minds had conceived. But most striking was the way it seemed to react to their presence, its surface patterns shifting and swirling as they approached. "Magnificent," Naomi whispered, reaching out toward it. Jensen grabbed her arm. "Protocol, Doctor. We don't touch unknown artifacts without proper containment procedures." She nodded, forcing herself to step back. "Right, of course. Call the ship. We need a full containment team down here." As they waited for backup, Naomi couldn't shake the feeling that the armor was watching them. Studying them. Choosing. The containment team arrived with their standard equipment, but nothing about this operation would prove standard. Every attempt to scan the armor was met with interference. Every probe they sent near it simply stopped functioning. It was as if the artifact existed in its own bubble of reality, operating on laws of physics humans had yet to discover. "The company's going to want this classified immediately," Jensen said, watching as the team struggled to establish a containment field. "Something this advanced, every military on Earth will be fighting over it." Naomi knew he was right, but something deeper bothered her. The patterns in the chamber, the way the armor responded to presence, this wasn't just advanced technology. This was something left behind. Something waiting to be found. As if responding to her thoughts, the armor's surface suddenly blazed with light, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When the glare faded, strange symbols had appeared on the chamber walls, glowing with the same ethereal light as the armor. "Start recording everything," Naomi ordered, her heart racing. These markings, they're not just decoration. They're telling a story. The next several hours were spent documenting every inch of the chamber while the containment team figured out how to safely transport the armor. The symbols spoke of a war among the stars, of civilizations rising and falling, and of a power that could either save or destroy everything it touched. But what troubled Naomi most was the final sequence of symbols, the ones that seemed to pulse with urgency. The worthy shall inherit the stars, but choice becomes destiny. As they finally prepared to transport the armor back to the Helios, Naomi couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just making a discovery, they were setting something in motion. Something that would change humanity forever. What none of them realized, as they carefully maneuvered the artifact into its containment unit, was that their discovery had already sent ripples across the galaxy. In the darkness between stars, ancient systems were awakening, and distant eyes had turned their gaze toward Earth. The armor wasn't just a relic, it was a key. And its discovery would force humanity to face a truth they weren't ready for. They were never alone in the universe, and their trial by fire was about to begin. 3 months after its discovery, the alien armor sat in a heavily guarded research facility beneath the Nevada desert. Despite the world's brightest minds working around the clock, the artifact remained as mysterious as ever. Every test, every scan, every attempt to understand its composition had failed. Ryota Tanaka, the facility's lead quantum physicist, stared at his latest failed simulation with bloodshot eyes. Another dead end, he muttered, tossing his tablet onto the desk. Around him, the research lab hummed with activity as dozens of scientists conducted their own futile experiments. In the observation chamber below, the armor floated in its containment field, its surface occasionally rippling like liquid metal catching starlight. They'd tried everything from quantum resonance scanning to good old-fashioned physical contact, but nothing could penetrate its secrets. Dr. Tanaka, his assistant called out, "Director Walsh wants an update in 10 minutes. Ryota rubbed his temples. Another meeting to explain their lack of progress to impatient military officials. As he gathered his notes, a commotion erupted from the maintenance corridor. "I don't care about clearance levels," a voice argued. "That environmental system needs fixing now, or this whole level goes dark." Through the security door burst Oliver Reed, the facility's newest maintenance engineer. At 32, with perpetually disheveled brown hair and grease-stained coveralls, he looked nothing like the polished scientists and military personnel who usually roamed these halls. "The cooling system is failing," Oliver explained to the security guard following him. "Unless you want all your fancy equipment to overheat, I need access to the main chamber." Ryota recognized Oliver from previous repair jobs. Unlike most maintenance workers, he had an uncanny ability to fix things others couldn't understand. Some called it luck. Oliver called it listening to the machinery. "Let him through," Ryota ordered. "We can't risk any system failures around the artifact." As Oliver made his way to the environmental control panel, the armor's surface began to shift more actively than usual. Few noticed at first, too busy with their own tasks, but Ryota saw it. The liquid metal swirled and pulsed with increasing intensity. Oliver worked quickly, his hands moving with practiced efficiency across the control panel. "Something's not right," he mumbled. "The power fluctuations are coming from inside the chamber, not the cooling system." The armor's surface suddenly blazed with light, just as it had done in the asteroid chamber. Warning alarms blared as energy readings spiked off the charts. The containment field flickered and failed. "Everyone out!" Ryota shouted, but it was too late. The armor moved like quicksilver, flowing through the air directly toward Oliver. Security personnel raised their weapons, scientists scrambled for the exits, but everything seemed to happen in slow motion. Oliver stood transfixed as the liquid metal surrounded him. There was no time to run, no time to think. The armor enveloped him completely, and for a moment, the entire chamber fell silent. Then Oliver screamed. It wasn't a scream of pain, but of overwhelming sensation. The armor bonded with him at a molecular level, its alien consciousness merging with his human mind. Images flooded his awareness, distant stars, ancient battles, civilizations rising and falling across millennia. When the light faded, Oliver stood transformed. The armor had become a second skin, sleek and otherworldly, its surface shifting between colors that shouldn't exist. His eyes glowed with an inner light, and when he moved, the air itself seemed to ripple around him. "Containment team, move in." Director Walsh's voice boomed over the intercom. "Wait." Ryota stepped forward, hands raised. "Oliver? Can you hear me?" Oliver's voice, when it came, echoed with harmonic overtones that hadn't been there before. I can hear everything. The machinery, the building, the earth itself." He looked at his hands, watching the armor shift and flow like liquid starlight. "It's alive, Dr. Tanaka. And it's been waiting for so long." Before anyone could respond, the facility's lights flickered, and a deep rumble shook the building. Far above, something massive had entered Earth's atmosphere. The armor's awakening had sent a signal, and something out there had answered. Oliver's eyes widened as the armor shared its knowledge. "They're coming," he whispered. "And we're not ready." Ryota watched in amazement as Oliver instinctively activated the armor's defensive capabilities, generating a shield of pure energy just as the ceiling began to collapse. As chaos erupted around them, one thought burned in Ryota's mind: why had the armor chosen a maintenance engineer over all the soldiers, scientists, and leaders who had tried to claim it? The answer would soon become clear, as Oliver Reed, the man who could hear machines speak, was about to become humanity's most unlikely guardian. But first, they had to survive the next few minutes, as the facility crumbled around them and unknown forces descended from above. The armor had awakened, but this was just the beginning. The real test was about to begin, and the fate of Earth would rest in the hands of a man who had simply wanted to fix a broken cooling system. The skies above Nevada burned. Through the chaos of evacuation alarms and crumbling infrastructure, Oliver Reed watched as 3 massive ships descended through the atmosphere, their hulls gleaming like polished obsidian. "The collectors," the armor's consciousness whispered in his mind. "They follow the beacon of awakening." Oliver felt the armor's anxiety merge with his own. What do they want? What they have always wanted. To gather power they believe isn't meant for lesser beings. The facility around them was in chaos. Security teams scrambled to evacuate personnel while military vehicles poured in from all directions. Through it all, Ryota Tanaka stayed close to Oliver, his scientific curiosity overshadowing his fear. "The armor's power output is off the charts," Ryota said, checking readings on his tablet. "But it's not just energy, it's adapting to your biological structure." Oliver flexed his armored hand, watching the liquid metal ripple. "It's teaching me. Showing me things. But there's so much I don't understand yet." Director Walsh strode toward them, flanked by heavily armed soldiers. "Mr. Reed, you're coming with us. That armor is government property." "The armor isn't property," Oliver replied, his voice resonating with newfound authority. "It's alive. And it chose me." Before Walsh could argue, the ground shook violently. Above them, the largest ship had positioned itself directly over the facility. A beam of intense purple light shot down, carving through the remaining floors like they were paper. Oliver moved instinctively, the armor responding to his thoughts. An energy shield materialized, protecting them from falling debris. The soldiers raised their weapons, unsure whether to focus on him or the threat above. Through the newly created opening, figures descended, tall, elegantly armored beings with 4 arms and crystalline features. Their leader landed gracefully, its faceted head tilting as it studied Oliver. "So," it spoke, its voice like chimes in a digital wind, "this is where the legacy armor fled. Hiding among primitives." "High Commander," one of its subordinates warned, "the host appears to have achieved initial integration." The commander's crystalline face shifted in what might have been amusement. "Impossible. These creatures barely understand quantum mechanics. They can't possibly comprehend the armor's true nature. Oliver felt the armor's indignation mix with his own. But something else was happening too. His natural ability to understand machinery was expanding, merging with the armor's ancient knowledge. The facility's systems, the alien ships above, even the advanced tech the collectors wore, he could feel it all, understand it all. "You're right," Oliver said, stepping forward. "We don't understand everything. But that's exactly why the armor chose us. We never stop trying to learn." The commander's crystalline hands flexed. "The legacy armor belongs to advanced civilizations. Your species is barely interstellar. Surrender it, and we may spare your world the indignity of forced evolution." In Oliver's mind, the armor showed him visions, worlds stripped of resources, species enslaved or transformed, all in the collector's quest for technological supremacy. They didn't just want the armor, they wanted to ensure no lesser species could ever wield such power. "Oliver," Ryota whispered, "whatever you're planning, the facility's systems are at your disposal. I've locked the collectors out of our network." A small smile crossed Oliver's face. Finally, someone who understood. He wasn't just a maintenance engineer anymore, he was a bridge between human ingenuity and alien technology. The armor responded to his revelation, its surface flowing like quicksilver as new configurations unlocked. Oliver raised his hand, and every piece of technology in the facility came alive. Security systems, research equipment, even the coffee machines, everything connected to his consciousness. "You want to see what primitive humans can do with advanced technology?" Oliver's voice echoed with both challenge and determination. "Let me show you." The battle that followed would be talked about for generations. Oliver turned the entire facility into a weapon, using his intimate knowledge of its systems combined with the armor's power. Security turrets transformed into energy cannons. Environmental systems became tactical advantages. Even the quantum research equipment was repurposed into defensive barriers. The collectors fought back with technologies centuries ahead of Earth's development, but they hadn't counted on human adaptability. For every advanced tactic they deployed, Oliver and the armor found a countermeasure, often using the facility's simple systems in ways their creators never imagined. Through it all, Ryota worked frantically at his tablet, analyzing the alien tech through the armor's sensors. "Their ships," he called out, "they're using a quantum-locked power distribution system. If we could disrupt it." "On it," Oliver replied, already feeling the patterns of energy flowing through the alien vessels. The armor enhanced his natural talents, letting him see the flaws in even the most advanced machinery. As the battle raged, something unprecedented was happening. Human ingenuity and alien technology weren't just coexisting, they were evolving together. The armor learned from Oliver's practical knowledge, while Oliver grew into abilities he never knew he possessed. The High Commander, watching its forces slowly lose ground, began to understand why the legacy armor had chosen this seemingly primitive species. In their imperfection lay their greatest strength, the ability to adapt, to think differently, to find solutions where none should exist. But the battle was far from over. As Oliver prepared for another assault, the armor shared a troubling revelation: the collectors weren't just fighting for possession of the armor. They were fighting to prevent a prophecy, one that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. As the battle reached a stalemate, the armor suddenly pulled Oliver into a deeper connection. The world around him faded, replaced by visions of a civilization that existed millions of years ago. A species that had achieved technological perfection, only to discover it had become their prison. "We were like them once," the armor's consciousness shared. "The Ascended, my creators, believed perfection was the ultimate goal. But perfection, they learned, meant the end of growth." Through the mental link, Oliver watched as the Ascended realized their mistake. Their technology was flawless, their society without flaw, and yet they were dying. Not physically, but spiritually. They had eliminated the very thing that had driven them to achieve greatness, the ability to fail, learn, and improve. The collectors follow the same path, the armor continued. They gather advanced technology, believing it will lead them to perfection. They don't understand that imperfection is the source of true power. In the physical world, Ryota noticed Oliver's stillness. Something's happening, he announced, his instruments detecting massive energy fluctuations within the armor. The quantum field is expanding exponentially. The High Commander also sensed the change. The merge is progressing too quickly. Stop this now, or your species will pay the price. But Oliver barely heard them. In his mind, the final piece of the puzzle fell into place. The armor hadn't been waiting for the strongest warrior or the most brilliant scientist. It had been waiting for someone who understood that technology wasn't about perfection, it was about possibility. My creators, the armor revealed, they seeded the galaxy with their legacy. Not to find beings worthy of their power, but to find those who would use it differently. Those who could take perfection and purposefully make it imperfect, making it grow in ways even they couldn't imagine. Oliver opened his eyes, seeing the world with new clarity. Every piece of technology around him, from the simplest circuit to the most advanced alien device, was part of a greater whole. The collector's ships, the facility systems, even Earth's primitive satellites, all of it could be more than the sum of its parts. You don't want to stop us because we're unworthy, Oliver addressed the High Commander. You want to stop us because we're exactly what the Ascended were looking for. We break things to make them better. We take risks. We imagine impossible things and then try to build them anyway. The commander's crystalline face shifted in complex patterns. You cannot comprehend the responsibilities of such power. Your species still wages war over primitive resources. You pollute your only habitable planet. We mess up, Oliver interrupted. We make mistakes. And then we learn from them. That's exactly what the armor was designed to nurture. The armor's surface began to transform, incorporating elements of human design with its alien architecture. Geometric patterns merged with organic curves, creating something entirely new. The quantum field it generated started resonating with every piece of technology in range, creating harmonies that shouldn't have been possible. Ryota's instruments were going haywire. Oliver, the armor isn't just adapting to you anymore. It's evolving. Creating new configurations that didn't exist before. Through their connection, Oliver felt the armor's excitement. For millions of years, it had waited for a species that wouldn't simply use its power, but would help it grow beyond its original design. The Ascended had created it to be perfect, but they had hoped humanity would make it better. The High Commander raised its weapon, but hesitated. The readings from Oliver and the armor defied everything the collectors believed about technological progress. This wasn't just integration, it was transformation. Last chance, Oliver offered, extending his hand. Stay and learn with us. Help us avoid the mistakes of the Ascended. Or leave, and let us find our own path. The chamber fell silent as the commander considered. In that moment of quiet, Oliver felt the weight of the choice before them all. The armor had chosen humanity not because they were ready for its power, but because they would never stop questioning how to use it. But before the commander could respond, a new signal pierced through the facility's defenses. Far out in space, something ancient had awakened, something that had been waiting for this exact moment. The armor's surface rippled with urgent patterns. They're coming, it warned. The ones who destroyed the Ascended. The ones who believe evolution itself must be controlled. As if in response, every screen in the facility lit up with the same message, transmitted in languages both human and alien, containment protocols initiated. Quarantine of emergent civilization beginning. Oliver looked at the High Commander, whose crystalline features had shifted to show genuine fear. Whatever was coming, it was enough to terrify even the collectors. The true test wasn't just about proving humanity's worth, it was about surviving long enough to realize their potential. The armor had revealed its purpose, but the revelation had drawn the attention of forces far beyond anything Earth was prepared to face. As the facility's sensors detected multiple objects emerging from hyperspace, Oliver realized that the real battle for humanity's future was just beginning. The void above Earth tore open as massive structures emerged from hyperspace, crystalline vessels that dwarfed even the collector's ships. They moved with impossible precision, arranging themselves in a geometric pattern that began to encompass the planet. The architects, the High Commander whispered, all traces of superiority gone from its voice. The self-proclaimed guardians of evolutionary order. Through the armor's knowledge, Oliver understood what they faced. The architects were the oldest known civilization, believing themselves responsible for ensuring species developed correctly. They had destroyed the Ascended not for their power, but for daring to let that power evolve unpredictably. Your civilization has accessed technology beyond its evolutionary stage, a voice resonated through every communication device on Earth. Quarantine protocols are non-negotiable. Surrender the legacy armor for proper containment. Ryota's tablet displayed alarming data as he worked frantically. They're creating some kind of quantum barrier around the planet. We'll be completely cut off from space travel, trapped in a technological dark age. Oliver felt the armor's anger merge with his own. This was what its creators had fought against, the idea that progress could be controlled, that evolution should follow a predetermined path. But where the Ascended had failed, humanity would have to succeed. Commander, Oliver turned to his former enemy, your people fought to possess the armor's power. We're fighting for the right to grow into it. Which matters more? The crystalline being studied him, its faceted features shifting in complex patterns. Finally, it spoke, the architects destroyed our first homeworld when we developed quantum technology too early. We became the collectors to survive, to prove our worth through power. It paused. Perhaps, we became what we feared most. The facility shook as the first waves of the architect's quarantine field reached Earth's atmosphere. Through the armor's enhanced senses, Oliver could feel the planet's technology beginning to fail as advanced principles were systematically nullified. But where others saw destruction, Oliver saw possibility. His gift for understanding machinery, enhanced by the armor's power, showed him something extraordinary. The quarantine field wasn't just shutting down technology, it was enforcing what the architects considered natural law. That's it, he breathed. They're not just limiting us, they're trying to impose their version of order. But order isn't the same as progress. The armor resonated with his understanding, their shared consciousness expanding. Every piece of human technology, from the simplest circuit to the most advanced AI, had one thing in common: it was built by beings who didn't follow the expected path. Oliver reached out, not to fight the quarantine field, but to embrace it. Through his connection with the armor, he began to manipulate the very principles the architects were trying to enforce. Where they sought to impose order, he introduced creative chaos. Where they tried to limit complexity, he showed how simplicity could birth innovation. You don't understand humanity, Oliver broadcast to the architects. We turned rocks into computers. We saw birds and dreamed of flight. We looked at the impossible and called it not impossible yet. The armor transformed around him, incorporating elements of human technology in ways that should have been impossible under the quarantine. Solar panel patterns merged with quantum fields. Digital circuits intertwined with alien crystals. The imperfect merged with the perfect, creating something entirely new. Ryota watched in amazement as his instruments recorded the impossible. The quarantine field, it's becoming part of our technology instead of suppressing it. You're using their own principles to evolve. The High Commander stepped forward, its own advanced technology beginning to shift and adapt. The collectors stand with Earth, it declared. We choose evolution over control. Across the planet, human technology began to adapt in ways the architects had never predicted. Simple machines took on new functions. Primitive computers processed quantum calculations through mechanical means. Humanity's greatest strength, the ability to find unconventional solutions, was transforming their weakness into an advantage. Impossible, the architect's voice boomed. This level of adaptation cannot occur within established parameters. That's exactly the point, Oliver replied. Humanity doesn't follow parameters. We break them, rebuild them, and discover new ones. That's not our weakness, it's our gift. The armor pulsed with power as it merged Oliver's understanding with its ancient knowledge. Together, they showed the architects something they had never seen before, a species that could turn limitations into opportunities, that could find beauty in imperfection, and strength in the very chaos they sought to control. The quarantine field faltered as its own principles were turned into catalysts for growth. The architects' perfect geometric formation broke as their ships backed away from the unprecedented transformation occurring below. The Ascended were right, Oliver declared. True evolution can't be controlled or predicted. It has to be free to fail, to adapt, to surprise even its own creators. That's what this armor was meant to protect, not power, but potential. As the architects' ships retreated, their quarantine field dissolving, Oliver felt the armor settle into its new form, no longer purely alien, nor simply enhanced by human technology, but something genuinely unique. It had evolved just as its creators had hoped, becoming something even they couldn't have imagined. The High Commander approached Oliver, its crystalline features arranged in what might have been respect. The collectors will spread word of what happened here. Other species must know that evolution cannot be chained. Ryota looked up from his readings with a smile. And humanity's role in all this? Oliver gazed at the sky where the architects had vanished. We keep doing what we do best, breaking rules, finding new ways, and proving that the best technology isn't the most perfect. He felt the armor hum in agreement. It's the kind that never stops growing. As dawn broke over the Nevada desert, Earth had changed forever. Not just through the technology they had gained, but through the understanding that their greatest strength lay not in achieving perfection, but in the endless journey of trying to reach it. The armor had chosen humanity not because they were ready for its power, but because they would never stop asking what else that power could become. In their imperfection, they had found something greater than perfection, the courage to evolve.